Yeehaw! Final Guys number 3 is live. I am your co-host, Jason Brandt, joined by horror author Hunter Shea.
Hello.
And the amazing Monster Man, Jack Campisi.
Buenos tardes, amigos.
Muchos tacos, everyone.
This week we are going to talk about the lovely Gal Gadot and her amazing performance in Wonder Woman. But first, we're going to talk a little bit of horror. What do we got going on in the news this week, Jackie boy?
Hello, gentlemen. Well, I got a few things. Luckily, my notes here were printed in the smallest font possible, so if I squint, forgive me. Big news on the Godzilla front, first of all. So the next monster movie in the King Kong Godzilla series is going to be Godzilla King of the Monsters. And I don't know if you already know that Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things is going to be in it.
Which one is that one?
She's 11.
Oh, 11. Okay.
Oh, I love her.
And Vera Farmiga is in it.
I love her.
But the latest casting, Bradley Whitford has been added to the cast. Which
cool.
I'm all for. He was in Cabin in the Woods. He was, the West Wing guy. He's in Get Out. He's awesome in Get Out.
Yeah.
Hopefully
they don't do what they did in that Godzilla movie and kill him within 5 minutes.
Right. If you ever watch the show The Mentalist, there was always the big question was, who is Red John, the serial killer, his nemesis? And there was one point where there was a reveal that it was him, and it was like one of the greatest television reveals of all time. And then the next season, they weaseled out of it, and it was like, no, he's just a guy who works for Red John. And they blew it. It was so, he would have been the perfect, like, this was the guy. He was, so I like this guy's work, so I was excited about that. And I'm curious to see what they do. I'm glad they're adding some name brand people to this to keep Godzilla from just being a B movie. Put some talent into it. So I'm psyched about that. Any thoughts?
I don't know. I want Godzilla to be a B movie. I don't want talent in a Godzilla movie. Maybe I'm just different. And you saw in King Kong, you can throw a bunch of talent in there, and they're just standing there like pieces of cardboard. He just blows everything away.
Though, the girl from Stranger Things, Vera Farmiga's got a real distinctness about her. Bradley Whitford's got a real personality. So I just think they're adding like good character actors to this.
I don't know that I call them star power, but they're definitely talented.
Yeah, like I said, I think good character actors. Yeah, it's not like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie leading this thing. It's kind of TV level.
World War.
It wouldn't be a week in horror without an update on the Universal Monsters Dark Universe. So, first of all, the first piece of news that came out was that they are eyeing The Rock to play the Wolfman. If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Okay.
Whoa.
Is he going to stop shaving his body?
I guess so. So we talk about taking things in a different direction. And one article I saw summed it up best. They're like, oh, okay, so he's the Hulk in the Universal Monsters universe.
Okay.
The other thing is,
I don't mind. You can do whatever you want with the werewolf.
I don't know. The Rock's a pretty charismatic guy. A lot of the stuff he does, you want to talk about B-level stuff. But he could make it fun. But I'm not a Fast and Furious fan, so.
What's crazy is, isn't he the biggest movie star on the planet right now?
He's
up there.
He's the guy they bring in to save franchises. So.
And so much of his stuff is cartoonish. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Dude, he played the Tooth Fairy. He can do anything.
He's going to be Black Adam in the DC universe, which is the Shazam nemesis.
Dude, there's a character named Black Adam.
Yeah, and he's basically Shazam with a black outfit.
Huh. They're making a Shazam movie?
Yes.
Jack, remember the 400-pound Shazam in the Lycra bodysuit at Chiller Theater?
I still remember what he smelled like.
Oh my God. He burned my nose hairs out.
we were at Chiller Theater, and there was a guy cosplaying, and he basically was built like Flounder from Animal House in a skin-tight Shazam costume with the flowered cape and everything. And he stunk like he'd been wearing that thing for 3 weeks.
Yeah, he was rough. And he was joined by a 300-pound Spider-Man later in the day.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I wanted to yell Shazam and pour a bucket of Axe body spray on him. So anyway, more on the so they've been talking about what monsters were going to be in this. They finally addressed that Dracula's coming, but they also threw in Creature from the Black Lagoon, Phantom of the Opera, and the Hunchback are joining the Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Invisible Man. And they started throwing out names of their wish list included like Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence and Angelina Jolie. So basically, and Charlize Theron. So basically, they want everybody who's in all the movies now to just be in all the other movies. So here's the X-Men universe, here's the Marvel universe, here's the Star Wars universe. Now it's just gonna be the same actors wearing different costumes in all the different.
You know me, I don't want to see Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's to me sacred ground. But
if by some miracle they pull this off, it would be the coolest thing of all time.
It would be.
We'll see.
Do they know that Invisible Man isn't a universal monster?
He is now.
All right, why not? If the Phantom of the Opera is, he might be pre-universal. I don't know.
There was a Addams Family reunion special once, like in the 70s, like it was in color. And I believe one of the uncles was Uncle Phantom of the Opera.
Well, that's like Uncle Gil was on the Munsters.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the very last appearance of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. He was Uncle Gil.
Okay.
Came for a visit.
You know, was it Zach from Saved by the Bell, the blonde guy? That's
yes.
Mark Paul Gosselaar, is that how you say his last name?
Gosselaar.
Gosselaar. He is going to be in a new Fox, at least it's a pilot, called The Passage. And it's based on a best-selling trilogy about a vampire plague by a guy named Justin Cronin.
Justin Cronin. If I lent you that book now, you'd be done in 2019.
Really?
It's a big book, and it's epic. I only read the first one. I know there's two others.
Yeah, they're saying this can span a century or something like that.
Yeah,
a virus that turns people into vampires.
Yeah, they're making a movie. Is it going to be a movie or a series?
It's a pilot for a series. Fox. Listen, I gave The Strain a chance and I bailed on it.
Yeah,
but I'll give it a shot. You know.
Yeah, it could be interesting. So the book is really good?
The book is excellent. It's dense. There's a lot going on in it. It's kind of like Game of Thrones for apocalyptic vampire fiction.
Oh, I've never heard of it. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because if you're going to do a series and it's that dense, that at least they can get some mileage out of the, some of these series that are based on like a movie. And you're like, okay. Or like making 3 movies out of The Hobbit. Come on.
Although, remember, non-horror, Justified was based on a short story. So sometimes you can get it right. Yeah. Fire in the Hole. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was Fire in the Hole by Elmore Leonard. It was a short story.
Now, speaking of TV shows, one that's not going to happen, related to a movie we were talking about recently. There was going to be a reboot of Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt. And that is not happening anymore. Did
Hillary Clinton turn down the role as the Crypt Keeper?
Donald Trump Jr. was fighting her for the...
Defiant.
I guess there was issues with the rights to the material, so it was on the horizon, and now it's not happening.
That sucks. If there's ever something that's primed to be remade, it's some kind of anthology series. There's no star, there's no overall structure that you need to worry about screwing up, except maybe the Crypt Keeper. But
yeah,
seems like that'd be. I'm sorry. Seems like that'd be a great Netflix series or something like that you could get a season and binge watch them or something.
I often put on episodes. I just put in discs of Tales from the Crypt in the background when I'm working. Just have it
News.
playing.
And my last piece of news is a big one. Put your life vests on. Sharknado 5 is coming. It's called Sharknado 5 Global Swarming.
Wait. There was a 4?
Of course there was a 4.
I remember 3.
I don't think I saw 3.
They're all a blur.
Is 4 where they went into space?
No, that was 3.
That's usually when you jump the shark.
Because in 3, at the end, like a shark or something lands on Tara Reid, and you're not sure if she's dead or not. And I think people had a vote on whether she lived or not. And then she lived. And then in the 4th one, she was like a robot or something. And like she had like Iron Man like powers. Some of the stars of this one are going to be Tony Hawk, Clay Aiken, Fabio, Brett Michaels, and Olivia Newton-John.
No Flavor Flav?
I wouldn't be surprised if he flew by. And then naturally, the NBC, like Al Roker and those guys are always in those movies too. I don't know why.
Wow.
So I end news on that great big news you've all been waiting for. Ian Ziering still has work.
There was one piece of news I heard. I thought I'd seen you shared it on the Monster Men about who was going to direct Godzilla vs. Kong. Did you hear this?
I did post that, and I forgot who did it. Let me look it up.
It's Adam Wingard, the horror director.
Oh, Mr. You're Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be interesting. I'm curious to see what happens there.
He also did that Blair Witch movie.
Unfortunately, yes, he did.
Ooh.
But he did some other good things. So,
Which I want to ask you guys. Now, you saw the Blair Witch movie. Did you think towards the end that turned into a UFO abduction alien movie?
It looked like one.
it looked like one, yeah. They did some really weird, interesting things at the end of that I liked.
I hated that movie from start to finish.
I thought the witch looked cool at the end. No?
The fact that they showed the witch, I think, bothered me more because I think the beauty of the first one was the simplicity and the what was that? Like, if you did see something, it was a blur. To suddenly have it be this thing.
It's a tough thing. I mean, that movie would not fly nowadays. The Blair Witch. There's no chance. So that was a tough position for those guys to be in to try to do that. But yeah, it wasn't great.
The Blair Witch Project was half movie, and the other more significant half was the viral internet marketing before people really knew what the heck to do with that.
Yeah, those shows.
When I say how much I love the Blair Witch Project, it's because of that. It was a cultural thing. It's such a monumental moment in film, and it was so cool. And seeing it in New York City when it was limited release. Did I lose? What happened?
Who let the dogs out?
Did everybody get a flash there?
I think Jason just got eaten by his dogs.
My dogs are going nuclear, so I had to mute my mic.
Nice.
You know, stop putting all that beef jerky in your pockets.
Living in a townhouse sometimes really sucks.
Anyway, that's the news.
All right. Well, let's get into what we've seen for the week. Anybody only see one movie to talk about?
I got two. What do you got?
I got two.
I have two. Look at that. Two's all around.
I went first last time. I was talking.
What was your number two like?
I watched two things this week. I mentioned one last week. It was a Netflix show called The Keepers. I finally got to finish it. If you want to talk about somebody who is truly horrific, the guy they mentioned in this, that's probably half the show is based on this guy, maybe 3/4, is the things a priest did in Baltimore from the 60s through, I don't know, 80s or 90s. I don't know when he stopped, but absolutely horrible stuff. They think he was involved in a murder. He molested a ton of kids. Just horrible, horrible stuff. And the show goes into pretty big detail on the things he did to them. And if you like true crime kind of things, anything like that, this is definitely for you. I will say it was incredibly long. Incredibly long. It could have been 2 Dateline episodes instead of 7 1-hour episodes. It's a little rough there at times, but worth a watch. The last 15 minutes alone are crazy, some of the reveals they have. So it was interesting. And that was The Keepers on Netflix.
That's on my list because of you.
And last night I watched a film called Dead Awake from 2016, directed by Philip Guzman and starring one of our favorites here, Jocelyn Donahue.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's everywhere now. I keep seeing all these movies with her. And I'm shaking my desk. That's lovely. It's an interesting film. It wasn't... It was interesting in a certain way. It had this Freddy Krueger vibe where if you fall asleep, this witch woman would come and suffocate you. So after about a quarter of the movie, it becomes, don't fall asleep. How do we beat her? So it was definitely a Freddy Krueger knockoff in that way, except there aren't the crazy dream sequences. She only strangles you, which made it more down to earth than a Freddy movie for the beginning. But then by the 18th time I'm seeing her strangling someone, it starts to become a little repetitive and it's starting to lose its punch, you know? So it kind of had that where it started to drag a little bit. It started getting a little redundant, started to lose a little bit of interest. But I will say it was directed really well. It did not look like a cheap film, which 55% of what I watched looks like it was recorded on a VHS camera. Well done.
That's fallen out of a plane.
Right. Jocelyn Donahue plays 2 characters in this. She's twin sisters. She nails it. Absolutely nails it, as always. She's a great actress, and it surprises me that she has not gotten bigger than she is. I've seen some... and she does good things, too. It's not like she's one of these scream queens. You would see Linnea Quigley after Return of the Living Dead, and some of the shit she was doing was terrible.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen this Jocelyn Donahue woman do anything terrible yet. She seems to find decent projects. So
she knows how to curate films. I think Jennifer Lopez needs to talk to her. Is she still so thin she could walk through a picket fence?
Jocelyn Donahue?
Yeah.
Little thin in this. Little thin.
Was that Amazon or Netflix?
That was on Amazon.
You know, I've seen that thumbnail. It's got like the person sleeping with the spider coming down on their face or something. So I've been contemplating popping it in. So it's interesting.
If it was on Prime or Netflix, definitely worth a watch. It's $6, $7, $8, whatever it is. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it wasn't terrible. And honestly, I'd really like to see that director do something else. Maybe something with a little more depth, with a little more interesting kills wise, maybe some scares. But you know, it wasn't bad. The ending definitely. I can really gauge things when I'm watching. If I'm watching with my wife, because if she starts getting her phone and she's just scrolling through Instagram, you know, then I know it's starting to lose its punch a little bit.
I just turned and my wife's dead asleep. I'm like, okay, she's bailed. I'm sticking in.
I read 2 books. I finished the John Saul novel I mentioned last week, Brainchild. It was excellent. The guy's writing, something about it interests me. It really holds my attention. Not a whole lot happened in the first 3 quarters of this. And normally that makes me want to bail on a book, particularly one that can be dense. Like I think this was maybe 350 pages. So it wasn't a small book, but it wasn't huge. But it was good. I'm definitely going to get more of his stuff. I highly recommend him.
Yeah, he does good character development too.
That's exactly what it was. I knew every character, who they were, their relationship with the main character, what was going on. I was invested. I dug it. And finally, I started a book. I almost finished it last night, but not quite, called Helltown by Jeremy Bates. I got it for free on Amazon. And this guy can write. He is another one that the characters are pretty good. I'm following them. The story is really interesting. It's about the real Helltown in Ohio. I'm sure you've heard of it, Mr. Cryptid.
Yeah, I have.
It takes place there. Obviously fictionalized, but interesting. I guess he has a whole series of books based on real things that he's fictionalized. So I'll probably grab the rest after reading this because I am digging it.
Oh, what is Helltown?
Hunter?
Oh, it's a place where hell lives. Actually,
I think it's supposed to be the most haunted place in America or something like that, but I feel like every town is called the most haunted place in America.
Oh my God, especially once you get down south.
Isn't there a movie, Hell Comes to Frogtown?
Starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, baby.
There you go.
I used to love Rowdy Roddy.
It may or may not be on our So Bad It's Good list. I'll put it that way.
Oh my god.
And that's all I've got. Jack,
Ooh.
what do you got for us?
Who?
Jackie, baby.
You.
I didn't hear it. His Hunter was slurping so loud. Well, I watched two movies. One was a documentary that's a part of the Small Town Monsters series of the Lyle Blackburn, one of our guests on Monster Men, did one about the Boggy Creek Monster. And I saw this other one on Amazon for free called Minerva Monster.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch that one?
I watched it like a month ago.
So it is nowhere near as good as the Boggy Creek Monster. It's the production value is much lower. It's like there's like 3 or 4 interviews that they keep going back and forth to of locals. Basically, a Bigfoot in Minerva, Ohio, and there's people's recollection of this thing that over the course of I don't know how long it was, a few weeks, this monster kept showing up, throwing rocks at people. They'd see it through the window and everything, and then it's their claim to fame.
So the monster's like a peeping Tom, it's like hitting windows from women with little pebbles.
Well, there was one part where some locals were throwing rocks at it, and then it threw the rocks back to them. And then somebody said something like, "Why don't you hit me in the nose?" And the monster actually threw the rock and hit the person in the face. And then there was one.
I think the problem with the Minerva Monster is there wasn't a lot of meat to the story. So I think, and they have to fill it. Those things are usually like an hour and 10 minutes, and they had to fill it. So it seemed like there was a lot of filler.
Yeah, it would have made a better like 20-minute YouTube clip.
Yeah,
than a full-length feature. However, now I know there's another. The third one is like about the Mothman, and I think Lyle Blackburn's more involved in that one.
I think he helped produce it. Just came out, so I think you can watch it now. And they also did The Beast of Whitehall, which is in upstate New York and like the Lake George area. That was a good one.
So I'll to complete them, I'll watch them all. But I watched that one. Listen, if you're on Amazon and you want to check it out, it's on a rainy day, you're doing laundry or something, pop it in.
Yeah.
You said it was free on Prime?
Yeah. And it's interesting, and you learn a little bit about, hearing these Bigfoot stories from places other than like upstate Washington and stuff is always kind of interesting. But I'd go Boggy Creek Monster before I watched that one if I were going to go with the Small Town Monsters.
Right.
The other movie I watched is one of the big 2017 releases, The Void. And I know my colleague, Hunter Shea, was not crazy about this movie. I loved it.
See? I said avoid.
I had such a blast watching this movie.
I was right down the middle.
There we go.
Really. So we've all seen it. So here's
like
what I liked about it, and then you guys can chime in. Popped it in, and there's distinct sort of pieces, like each act is sort of derivative of like a 70s or 80s horror movie. I at the end of this movie, I said that's the best Hellraiser sequel that's ever been made. Like, it's better if they had made them they put this in the Hellraiser world and made a few tweaks, it would have been like perfect. It would have been better than what they've done.
That was my problem, because you propped this movie up on this John Carpenter thing, and then you kicked me in the nards with Clive Barker, and it was just such a jarring transition. I was like, oh, they don't know what they're doing.
I'm in the middle, because I liked the Hellraiser vibe, but I didn't like that they completely copied a couple scenes in particular from Hellraiser. It actually irked me. One towards the end was almost a shot-for-shot copy of a scene in Hellraiser, and it bugged me. But I dug the vibe. So
I thought there was John Carpenter in there. I thought there was Hellraiser. I thought there was Reanimator a little bit. Yeah, and so for me, popping it in, I enjoyed myself the whole time. So even though there was parts I was like, okay, wow, that's right out of The Thing. Okay, that's right out of Reanimator. I felt more like it was a well done homage, and so many movies I sit through suck so bad that I just enjoyed this on a fun level. Like, I could see popping this in October around Halloween, and it would. I just had a good time with it. It's not the greatest movie ever, but definitely worth renting and watching. I thought you'll have a lot of fun. And if you're a younger person who hasn't really experienced all of these movies already, this would be a great gateway. because you're going to go back and watch Reanimator if you're a 19-year-old horror fan. The effects in the movies that we grew up with are going to be cheesier. So maybe you start with this, build your appetite, and then go back and watch the classics. So I thought it might be a good entry-level horror movie for the younger crowd. But for me, kicking back and watching, I had fun with it. Like I said, you can nitpick. There are parts that they took right out of other movies, but I thought it was fun enough, and there was great gore. And I like that it kept changing. So you're like, also it's Escape from Precinct 13 or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like Hellraiser. So I had a good time.
I would like to see those guys do a movie with bigger budget and maybe some actors who were a little bit better. That was kind of some, I think, not all the actors, but some of them were not on top of their game. So I would like to see those guys do something different. They got my interest enough that I definitely would like to check out their next.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see more from them.
Well, that's my thing. I didn't like The Void, but I saw Colonels in there. I was like, I would definitely like to see them come up with something else. So I will give them another shot.
You all done there, Jackie?
I'm all done.
No books?
No. At some point I'll finish the book I'm reading.
Playboy articles?
I'm halfway through House of Cards, and it's great so far.
Oh, there you go. All right, we know what you're doing with your time. All right. Well, I had to cleanse my palate after watching these subpar cryptid movies. So my wife got a movie from Netflix called Panic in the Year Zero, starring Ray Milland. You remember him? He was the beast with two heads and the man with the X-ray eyes. And he was in Lost Weekend. He's actually a legitimate actor. But growing up, I knew him doing these like cheesy horror sci-fi movies. And he takes his family out. It's a black and white movie. Takes his family out. They got a camper. They're going fishing in the mountains somewhere. And during their ride, nuclear Armageddon breaks out.
Okay.
And he quickly realizes we have to survive. And he just turns on a dime. Like Ray Milland's always kind of like this crusty older guy. But you could see almost everything that you see in modern day, like Walking Dead, any apocalyptic stuff. It was all laid down in this movie. Like, first thing is like, we need food. Let's get off the road. We're going to find a little side road, a little town that doesn't know what's going on because, there's no TV, barely any radios. And we'll raid the place and we'll raid the hardware store. And then, when a guy starts to catch on, he pulls a gun on him and he, punches him in the face and takes everything. And going, I'll get you a check. But when he steals everything, and he takes the family up into the woods, and there's they come across some piece of garbage, punks trying to get their stuff from them. And his son, who's like a teenager, his son was Frankie Avalon.
What year was this movie?
It's in either the late 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
So he has his son like shooting guys and stuff. It's a wild movie, and it's kind of depressing, man. There is no happy ending here, but it was really, really good. So check that out. It's starring Ray Milland and directed by Ray Milland.
Is there anything Ray Milland can't do?
There is nothing except actually maybe get up and walk around today. I think he passed away a long time ago.
God rest his soul.
Now, the other movie that I watched, and I have to make a correction. Last week, Jason watched a movie with Rupert Evans, and I said, oh, he was in My Best Friend's Wedding. I was getting my Ruperts confused. Rupert Everett was in My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh, okay.
The gay guy. The moment I wake up.
Can you turn in your man card after this show, please?
Look, I'm married. I've seen a lot of things. The Canal, I knew this was going to be good because I saw it was funded by the Irish Film Board.
I've almost watched this movie 1,000 times. I can't wait to hear how this was.
Well, the picture on the cover tells you nothing about the movie. It looks like a sequel of The Stuff, and it's nothing like that. Rupert Evans, who you might know from The Man in the High Castle, which is a great show on Amazon. Him and his wife, you could tell right away they've got this shaky kind of marriage. They live by a canal, and she's cheating on him. And then one day she ends up dead, found in the canal. And it's a real weird kind of psychedelic movie. There's a lot of bizarre imagery, and he doesn't know if he killed her or if the spirit of the canal killed her. And you just watch him kind of like go insane through the entire movie and implicate himself when he's trying to tell everyone that he's innocent, and he's left with just him and his little son. It was surprisingly good, and it's been on my queue for 2 years at least. It's on Netflix, and I liked it. Irish Film Board, they supply money and help production of a lot of movies in Ireland, and they've done movies like Grabbers, Wakewood, and The Citadel. So once I saw that they were connected to this, I said, all right, it's probably got a good story, and it's definitely worth a watch, man. And I'm
you
not
said that was Rupert Evans.
That was Rupert Evans, not Rupert Everett.
Yeah, that movie got a lot of buzz the year it came out. Like when we were doing our race for the top 13.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those ones that I would see mentioned, and I would never find it like for free. And there were so many other movies to watch, and I watched the trailer, and I was like, this movie feels like a lot of work to watch it. Like,
yeah, you know what? It's only an hour and a half, and it's a trippy ride, man, and it's well acted. Rupert Evans is a great actor, and everybody around him was really good. It's a solid cast and solid direction. So I think if my list went to 15, it might have made my top 15 the year it came out. It'd be close.
I only vaguely remember some of it, but I did see it, and I remember thinking it was pretty solid.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's high. It's good production quality and a weird ass story.
A decent movie on Netflix. God bless you, son. Your work is done here.
Exactly. And I'm going to push one book that I read. I didn't read it this week, but and Jack and I just had her on our Monster Men show. It's City of Ghosts by J.H. Moncrieff. I don't know why I have to say her name like that. It is a ghost story. It's about a guy named Jackson Stone, who is traveling around China, and he has this idea where he's going to strike while the iron's hot and write this book about real haunted places. And he's in this ancient Chinese city that's full of ghosts. And he finds out that when you tell the tour guide that I am lost and I didn't mean to accidentally strand myself in this little island, that you shouldn't do that. You should tell the truth and you shouldn't hang out with ghosts because they do follow him. It's a really good story, and there's a sequel to it that's coming out very soon too.
I'm going to take this opportunity to plug the latest Monster Men show. We interviewed J.H. Moncrieff, and she is a delightful person who told us a story about her trip to Poveglia Island, which is the most haunted island like in the world. It's in Italy.
Yeah.
And the City of Ghosts was basically inspired by her trip to this island. And she was nice enough to give me pictures to use. If you want to listen to a really interesting story, go check that out on our site, on our YouTube page. It's a really interesting interview. She's a good storyteller. She tells us a few other paranormal stories. It's one of my most enjoyable Monster Men shows we've done. It was really, I walked away going, I got to read her book, and I want her back on to tell more stories. So
she classed up the joint, that J.H. Moncrieff.
I was going to plug that episode at the end. I watched it yesterday, and it was outstanding. She is really good. I actually went out and got one of her books, and that's maybe the second guest I've done that with that you guys have had on the show.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
She was really interesting. The way she told the story and everything, she's great.
And she's got guts, man. She went to this island by herself.
I know. I wouldn't go to that island with you two guys and guns.
Right? She's like some sort of Wonder Woman.
Da, 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 da.
Speaking of, we are going to take a quick break and get into a Wonder Woman. And because we are not doing any ad reads yet, let's begin.
You didn't want to do what I did last week and say, let's take a break and just sit there like idiots for a
just sit here and wait for nothing.
Where's the music?
Before we each get into our opinions of the movie in general and everything, I'm sure 100% we all agree that Gal Gadot is freaking amazing as Wonder Woman.
Amen.
I think she is Wonder Woman as much as Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man and Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. If I'm going to do my top 3 that fit perfectly, she's in it.
I said the exact same thing. I feel like she is the best casting since Robert Downey Jr. She's right up there with him. She's only done one movie. He's done how many? Or 2 movies. She's done 2. She kills it.
I actually think that one of the strengths of the Marvel universe is the casting, and I actually equated her to Chris Hemsworth because you knew who Robert Downey Jr. was, you knew Ben Affleck, all these other guys. Hemsworth was like, who's this guy? And he's so funny as Thor, and he's sincere, and he made Thor this guy we love. Like in Age of Ultron, the movie may be not one of the best Marvel movies, but I'll watch it just to watch Thor talking about the balance of swinging the hammer and stuff. He's great. So when I'm watching Gal Gadot, I'm like, this is Marvel level casting. Like, you guys are exactly right. But what I saw there was elements of the Chris Evans and the Chris Hemsworth, the idealism of Captain America, the fish out of water deity in Mankind, in this charismatic package of Gal Gadot, who if you didn't walk out of the movie theater in love with her after Batman versus Superman, you can't resist her now. Like everybody's going crazy because they're in love with this woman. She's amazing.
I don't know where they found her, how they discovered her, but holy shit. It actually horrifies me to know that she's already in her 30s and having kids, because I want to see more of her. I want to see 20 years of her kicking ass.
Wait, she's in her 30s?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I walked out of that movie theater and I looked at my 19-year-old daughter. I said, well, Salma Hayek is now number 2 because Gal Gadot is number 1 with a bullet. Holy bejeez.
All right, let's jump into this a little bit. Hunter, what did you think?
I will preface this by telling you guys, I do not like DC comic movies at all. I didn't like any of the Michael Keaton Batmans. I didn't like Christopher Reeve's Superman. I haven't liked anything but The Dark Knight. I know Jason's like blinking heavily. I didn't like. I thought they were all stupid. I think that they spit the bit on story or casting, or it's always something with them. So I went into this going, all right, well, we'll see. At the very start of the movie, when they're on the island, I was like, oh crap, this is going to be terrible. Like, I had some high expectations because I'd seen the coming attraction. It looked better than most, but the whole scene with the Amazons, it seemed to go on forever. I was like, ugh. And then she got out of there, and then we've got the whole fish out of water scenario. And when she finally started fighting in the trenches, this is set in World War I, that changed the movie. I was in for anything at that point. I thought she was more savage than Wolverine with all the power of a Superman and a Thor, which also is not the Wonder Woman that I know. You know, I know Wonder Woman as the invisible plane bouncing around, kind of helps people out. I never knew her as a badass psycho killer bent on destruction. So I actually really, really like this movie. I'm so much so that I want to stay in my seat and watch it again. And it's 2.5 hours. And I will see it again. I think it's a mashup of Clash of the Titans. It has a vibe of The Mummy, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, once they get their like gang of kind of goofy guys to help them out. And Captain America, the first Captain America. I think it's kind of a mashup of those 3. And there's 3 movies that I really like, so I enjoyed it thoroughly.
All right. Well, I will go second because I have a feeling I liked it the least out of all 3 of us.
Counterpoint.
Probably significantly. I liked this movie. I definitely did not love it. I did not hate it. My wife hated it.
Why?
Hated this movie. Yes. About 20 minutes in, 30 minutes in, right when the Germans landed on the island and the battle started, and the action was terrible. When the one Amazonian, is that how you say Amazonian?
Amazonian. Sounds good.
All right, we're going with Amazonian. When she runs and jumps off his shield and spins around and shoots 3 arrows and hits 3 guys, and then does a 720 with the sword, hit more guys. My wife looked at me And the look in her eyes was like, what in the hell are we watching right now? And I started laughing because that stuff on the island I thought was terrible. The queen made no sense. She contradicted herself within 10 seconds. She didn't want her trained, then goes, okay, I want you to train her 5 times more than anyone else.
Yeah, train her harder than anyone. How?
What is happening here? And then when you find out kind of the story later on in the movie as to who Wonder Woman is, like, wait a minute. Wait, her plan was to not train her, knowing what her destiny would be? It drove me crazy. However, when the second act hits and she gets off that island with Chris Pine, I absolutely love this movie. The middle third of it is some of the best superhero stuff you're going to see. And I'm not even talking about the action sequences, which were great, but her stuff with Chris Pine is so on point. He is the best love interest in a superhero movie to date. I thought he crushed it.
Well, you just have a crush on him.
I do, but shut up. Did you see those abs? Did you see those abs?
Yeah, he did say he's above average.
He did. When they had that conversation about how big his dick is, I thought that was great. The middle action I thought was way more grounded and interesting than the crap that was happening at the beginning where they're doing kick flips off horses and shooting arrows upside down and crap. When she jumps through a window, which I don't know, the CG was weird in that shot. I don't know why. But the rest of it, when she's crushing those Germans in that room, it was amazing. And that guitar I was telling you guys about that I love.
Yeah.
It starts playing. I was going from 6 to midnight. It was amazing.
That was one of the best musical cues in a movie I've ever heard. I was like, I'm getting the soundtrack to this movie. I want to play that when I need to rally.
Yeah, when you start to hear it, your nipples go bing, and here we go.
Yeah. Oh man, whoever came up with that guitar lick and timed it with her is a genius because it is killer. Remember
when Hulk Hogan would be like in his prime and he'd be like in trouble and it looked like he was going to lose and his arm would go up once and down. His arm would go up twice and down. He'd go up a third time and wait a minute, and everybody would go nuts. That's when that music. It's the Hulk Hogan wait a minute moment.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he'd start hulking up and people would be punching him in the face. Didn't matter.
Yeah, you're like, oh, Wonder Woman.
That's what I want to see from Wonder Woman 2. She's getting her ass kicked and the guitar starts and she's just like, hold on.
Like she has to battle the Iron Sheik.
She kicks out on the 2 count.
Actor.
Tehran, Iran is #1.
Oh yeah, she tags out Superman at the end. I absolutely, completely fell in love with the second act of this movie, and the third act really fell off for me again. At one point, we'll talk about when we get to the spoiler section. It was almost like the movie was directed by different people. The beginning I couldn't stand. The middle was some of the best comic book stuff ever. And then the end, there was, particularly at one scene when I felt like it dropped off dramatically.
Oh, I got to hear what this is later.
Yeah, so I'll get into that in a bit. But Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, all day, every day. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie.
All right.
Ooh, Pine.
I thought it was a very good movie, the best DC movie of the new universe. A huge step in the right direction for this DC universe after Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman being, duds. This movie had heart. This movie had humor. It was just a fun ride and not so dour, and actually had moments of character development and humor. So overall, really enjoyed this movie. I'm so happy for all the little girls out there who ran home and were, putting on tin foil and running around their house. I think that's great. I'm head over heels in love with Gal Gadot. Again, Hugh Jackman's a great example. Like she's like the Hugh Jackman of the DC. Like, who is this now? Especially coming. Linda Carter has been the only face of Wonder Woman, and she's wonderful for that era. So to have a badass supermodel, but she's a supermodel that you don't realize it,
right?
Because she's like a jock.
How many guys are going to be buying their women Wonder Woman outfits?
Right.
I wish I was selling those because I'd be a bajillion.
They're probably sold out on Amazon right now.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
So while I really enjoyed this movie, I came out with, naturally, I'm a humongous superhero movie fan. So even sometimes my criticisms like, I say this, but I'll watch this movie 800 times, even though I'll nitpick it to death. However, I heard some people saying, best movie ever. This is the greatest, superhero movie since Christopher Reeve. I'm like, okay, let's not get carried away here. This is a very good movie, a star-making role turn for Gal Gadot.
Wait. If Christopher Reeve is their bar that they've set, then I can find episodes of Three's Company that's better than the movies he made.
Okay, people, just hang with us 1 second here. I'm trying to figure out how to mute his microphone.
Come on, Jack Tripper hater.
Would you let me finish how I feel?
Fine.
I'm trying to express my feelings. Anyway, so it's funny. The island scene didn't bug me that much because I thought the little girl was entertaining. You're right. The dialogue between them is ridiculous, but being introduced to this wide-eyed, idealistic, naive, but like fierce warrior princess was pretty entertaining, and I thought they went through it pretty quickly. You're right. The middle part of this movie is the pater. Listen. Chris Pine is good. He's just Chris Pine in this movie. He's not playing. He never once comes off like a guy from World War I era. He talks like a guy from 2017, and he talks like it's like Captain Kirk or anybody else he's played. But he's a charismatic guy, and he brings the banter between those two in the relationship was great. So he was great casting. And all that, he just brought his Chris Pine to it. You get to the middle, and we'll get into it in spoilers. Some of the best scenes. If you were going to nitpick, some of the CG was pretty bad. When she was working the rope, you could, it reminded me of like Lord of the Rings. There were scenes where Legolas was like jumping around, and you could tell it was a CG body. There were some moments where I was like, that kind of looks kind of cheesy. But then other parts where she do leg sweep, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. Third act kind of gets into the formula, big, production. It was okay. The villain was probably the weakest piece of this whole movie, and that's where I'd say it's a definitely see this movie. You're going to love it, but am I going to take off points for it? Those are a few places where I'd punch it.
Did you say Chris Pine bought his Chris Pinus?
He brings Chris Pineness to it. It's just.
Is that like, so you were concentrating on his pinus?
Well, let's be fair. They made a big deal about his pinus in the movie.
I said pineness, and you naturally went there because
I feel like
you can't get enough pinus.
So Jason's in love with his abs, and you're fixated on his pinus. I feel like you guys saw a different movie than I did.
Hashtag Hunter loves pinus.
One of you needs to tag him on Twitter with this, by the way.
Sons of bitches, you do that and I will hunt you down.
Is your pinus above average, Chris?
For me, it's Boston cream pinus.
Boston cream pinus.
All right. With that,
get enough pie.
Let's jump into spoilers here. I have a feeling we're going to go a little long on this episode, but I don't give a shit. I have a lot to say about this movie, so it is what it is. So anybody who has not seen this, now is the time to bow out. You're only going to miss 10 minutes or so here. If you want to follow us, we are at Final Guys on Twitter. We are Final Guys on Facebook and Final Guys on YouTube. You can follow me. I'm Jason_Brandt on Twitter and JM Brandt on Facebook. I think every episode I've set a different address for myself on Facebook, which shows you how much I actually know about my own career.
That's awesome.
The links to all of us is on our website too. So
yeah, go to finalguys.com. You'll find us.
All right. Spoilers again. Peace out. Those of you who don't want to get the ending spoiled here.
She wins.
Jack, you said you had some issues with the third act. What were they?
Okay. First of all, I knew who Ares was the whole time. Partially because they showed the guy in the trailers way too much for him to just be a side character. So I'm like, oh, there's something up with him. And then Danny Huston, who plays the German soldier?
Mm-hmm.
under him and Madam Poison or whatever, Dr. Poison, all three villains, the two that are obvious were in and out of that movie and didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, they didn't. They did. There wasn't much meat on the bones of those characters.
And then when you get to Ares, it was the wrong guy to be Ares, and I get that they were trying to hide the reveal, but to me it was obvious the whole time. Even if I hadn't seen the thing, I was like, "Oh, there's something up with this guy." And then when he did, he just turned into this big CG thing, and there was no real. The relationship between them was like, eh. So listen, there are great villains and there are mediocre. So I put this down as mediocre. However, I did like the whole twist of it's not the sword, it's you. So I thought that was pretty cool.
One thing that bothered me, the Germans they talk like British people.
Or they talked with German accents. Like,
I mean, good Lord.
I've got a whole complaint about that shit.
Put on an accent. It actually made it hard sometimes. I'm like, are they German right now, or is that a British SAS guy? Like, there were times I was thoroughly confused.
Hogan's Heroes had better Germans.
Hogan.
Hunter, any complaints here in the third act you want to talk about that are spoilerish or praises even?
I know it's a comic book movie, so I'm not expecting Shakespeare to come out of it. They loved slow motion in this, which I think they got from the Avengers, what they do is it slows it down so it looks like those 2-page comic panels. You know what I mean? Where you got the full battle.
This is a Zack Snyder textbook.
Yeah, they were cribbing directly from the way they've been doing it at Marvel, and I didn't mind that. Kind
of. Zack Snyder uses slow motion to the point where he triples the length of his movies, but this was time warp stuff from the 90s, like Matrix, Blade, speed up, slow down, speed up. It was weird. That stuff's not really used anymore, so I was surprised to see them using that.
It was an interesting choice. I wasn't too crazy about any of the villains, especially Madam Poison. Like, I want Dr. Poison, whatever the hell she was. I wanted to see more with her. They just did nothing with her, and so to that point, you kind of lose your investment in what she's fighting against. But I expect like balls to the wall, batshit insanity in the end, and they gave me that. And I got a Wonder Woman who is freaking nigh indestructible, which was kind of cool. It was a different kind of Wonder Woman for me. I mean, so much so that I've actually went to the comic book store and I said, I want the Wonder Woman in that movie. And they pointed me to the trades that have like this new version of Wonder Woman. So I didn't mind it. I dug it. Like I said, I didn't like that stuff on the island. To me, once you got me off the island, I was happy.
Look, if you ever go back on Netflix and watch the Justice League cartoons, there's like two series. They're great. And Wonder Woman is great. It's worth marathoning. It's a ton of episodes. It's one of the best representation of the DC characters, and Wonder Woman is great in those. There's another animated movie with Kerry Russell does Wonder Woman's voice. It's pretty good, but I've never really read much with her. But you can find some good animated
stuff. So if you're home alone with your pinus and you want to get some cartoon Wonder Woman on, that's where you go.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is going to go on for months. I'm not letting this go.
Here I go.
You won't let go of your pinus?
I can't let go of my pinus.
It's above average.
All right, hit us with, why don't you shit all over the movie for us here?
So, I absolutely couldn't stand what they did with the two Germans who were supposed to be the bad guys for the whole thing. You find out at the end, they aren't. So they were literally only in the movie to conceal who the bad guy was, and it wasn't concealed at all. It was completely obvious. Mm-hmm. That shit where he's smoking some kind of gas that's making him superhuman, what the hell did that have to do with anything?
I've read theories that they're teasing Venom, which is what Bane takes to charge himself up. Someone's like, is that a preview of the origin of Bane down the road in the DC universe? I was like, I don't know. It was a cheesy special effect in that made his face turn white. And
if that's what it is, whosever idea that was needs punched in the face. That was terrible. Look, when you're doing a superhero thing, when you're doing something supernatural, Hunter, you're a horror author, you have to make everything else around it grounded. that's what makes it more interesting. That's what makes it more powerful. So when you have some German dude just snorting farts out of a container and getting super strong, it's ridiculous. And then I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, so they already have this gas perfected that makes them super soldiers. Why are they wasting all their time trying to find another gas to kill us? Just give all your guys this shit and clean house.
Well, I think they only gave this. It was like Red Bull for World War I, because one time it took. I'm really tired. I made this for you.
Yeah, and he sniffs it like he's doing coke in the 80s, and then nothing happens. That's it.
No.
That really bugged me. I didn't understand her powers.
Yeah.
So at the end, and again, for those of you who are going to very quickly start getting annoyed at me mentioning my wife, get used to it. She doesn't know much about Wonder Woman. She's never been a fan of the character. I've never really been a fan of the character. But we left, and she had no idea what her powers were. At the end, when all that concrete and stuff's flying at her and it's disintegrating in the air in front of her, I'm watching this like, what the hell is going on here? She has a force field? I don't get it.
Well, she's a god, and I think they showed it on the island when she was training. And if you got her emotional enough, it would open up that pathway. Because when she was fighting her aunt or whatever, and she like knocked everyone silly with that force field that burst out of her. So I don't know enough about Greek mythology to know where that comes from.
But they made it look like it was her bracelets. So I thought she had to use her bracelets to do stuff like that. But I guess not.
Because that also was in Batman versus Superman. When they're fighting Doomsday, that bubble thing happened. And again, I equated it to the
bracelets.
To the bracelets. So here's my big knock on DC superheroes in general, is they're so freaking super powered. And I always like the Marvel characters, even the most powerful guys had limitations, whereas Superman, I can shoot heat, I can lift the world. Everybody's a freaking god except Batman, who's just a regular guy, and he can hang with these dudes. Green Lantern, whatever. So everybody's like a god level that like street criminals would never have a chance against these people. So they did it with her, and like the further the movie went, you're like, boy, they're really like ratcheting her up to almost Superman level. She can practically fly now.
Yeah, I mean, she could do whatever she wanted. I think if you go, and I was told if you read the New 52 Wonder Woman, there's Volume 1 Blood, Volume 2 Guts. If you read those, they kind of explain what this Wonder Woman's about. So now you got some homework.
Well, again, at the end, my wife asked me, so can she fly? And I said, no. And then 3 minutes later, I said, maybe.
She can kind of float.
Yeah, and absorb his powers and has telekinesis. And I didn't get her powers at the end. And I'm afraid they're making her too strong, because if you want to ruin a character, make him stronger than make her, in this case, stronger than the villain. That's terrible. So I don't know. I really didn't like that. And I mean, I could just go on and on. But the moment when I said I didn't like the third act is when it started when they went into the dance. And she has a freaking sword sticking out of her dress. And the bad guy grabs her around the back and starts dancing with her. I'm like, you can't feel the gigantic sword?
I thought that too.
And everyone's such good posture, my dear.
It was ridiculous. So from that point
maybe he thought she had polio, and that was some kind of like truss or something.
She was Sweet D with the brace on.
Oh, God damn it.
I'm going to be curious to listen to this audio tomorrow, because I'm starting to get worked up, and I think I'm getting closer and closer to the mic and yelling louder and louder.
Calm down there.
It'll be blown out. But from that point on, things started going down. And then when they went into the German encampment to get Ares, she breaks in, she takes out 4 or 5 guys, and then the hundreds of other guys on the base couldn't give a shit that there's all this craziness happening over here. They just, let's get this plane going, guys. Hey, let's get this dock unloaded. Nobody cares. We have
work to do.
And then when she takes out the guy who she believes is Ares, this is an interesting thing that I thought didn't work. She has the fight scene with him after he snorts his coke. We're watching her fight an old man. I don't want to watch a Greek god fight an old man. an old out of shape man. That was weird. She takes him out, and then it was a great example of some of the issues I had with this movie. She left her sword up top when Ares finally appears, and she makes a show of not having her sword. And it's like, oh yeah, you left it up in the dead body up there. And I'm thinking, okay, she's going to fight her way to the sword with this guy and get it. Nope. She jumps up, grabs it, and jumps back down. I'm like, why is this in the movie? That should have just been cut out. She just should have had the goddamn sword. It was weird. It almost felt like there was
finding all the things that I think DC does wrong because they miss all those kind of little details.
Which is what drives me nuts about their movies. But I know I'm nitpicking here. People, hang on. I have one more point, and then I have good points. I promise.
Oh, well, let me ask you one thing. Did you think they missed a golden opportunity? Because that's brother versus sister. And the only time they even acknowledge is when she calls him brother. That was it.
Yes. That was my problem with having the red herring of the Germans as the enemies, because we didn't get to see this guy being the bad guy. I get that they wanted to do the big reveal, but it would have been more powerful to see her dealing with this. Yeah, that's her brother. That's the only other one other than her that's left.
That's what I was talking about, is there was no relationship or weight between them. So that fight didn't mean as much. Whereas if they had some sort of relationship before that, and I know there was a lot to cram into that movie, but
it's my complaint with Batman vs Superman. You cram too much shit in, and you're missing some of the good story stuff here.
Right.
So my last complaint, and it is a big complaint for the final act, is when you find out who Ares is, which was obvious. So when they finally say who Ares is, who you all know, he is a Greek god, and we find out who he is, and he continues to speak with an English accent as the Greek god. And then we have to watch her get in an epic fist fight with an old British man with a terrible mustache. I kept waiting for his appearance to change, his voice to change, him to get bigger, something. Nope. Old British man fist fight.
Well, they did a CG body on him when he turned into the Gladiator, where they kind of put his face on a bigger body. But it was clearly, a gimmick, a trip.
I did not understand that.
Don't fuck with Reginald Snodgrass, I tell you.
But in that same scene when she's fighting the guys on the runway and she's crushing those Germans when she gets really pissed off, that was so well done.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's what I wanted. The third act, all I wanted to see was Gal Gadot beating things up.
Yes.
And that's what it gave me. I really wasn't. I was letting stuff go. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the moment here.
I did like Chris Pine's death scene. I thought for the moment where before he pulls the trigger, it kind of looked like a guy was like, oh crap, I'm really doing this. Like, he wasn't just like, haha, I'm a hero. He was like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, he really hesitated there for a second, and then you could see he mentally had to grab hold of his pineness with both hands.
Yes.
I got a little emotional.
I did have an issue with that. He had said, so the plane was going to take off, and somebody said, we're going to call in the Air Force, and they're going to shoot this down. He said, well, the explosion will kill everyone within 50 miles because of the gas. And then he drives up a half a mile and blows it up himself. So, what?
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
We're just going to assume it just filtered.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was some kind of altitude line I missed. Like, I'm going to take this plane that's essentially made of paper mache at this time. I'm going to take it up high enough that it won't matter. I wasn't sure if I missed something.
Yeah. No,
I assume that he got high enough that it would be, I don't know, harmless. But
can you take me?
But Gal Gadot's reaction was amazing. And again, I don't want to come across like I'm hating this movie, even though I hated 2/3 of it. But the middle was so money. I just want to see a whole movie like that with her crushing Germans. And when she goes on the front line and she's using her shield to block
that
all
no
that
man's
stuff,
land scene, that's the pivotal moment in that movie. Like
when she gets pissed off and jumps up and destroys the bell tower with the sniper, that was amazing.
Oh my god, that was so good.
Where is this shit?
Unfortunately, I don't think they're never going to go back to World War I. You're just going to see her in one day, I think.
A few things. So what they did right, they go to the Marvel playbook of character moments. So they had that sort of fish out of water. She's naive. She's idealistic. So when she tastes ice cream for the first time, which I guess is right out of a comic book. She sees a baby. She's never seen a baby. Gal Gadot is selling those moments so perfectly. And I'm curious as to when they come to modern day Diana, who's now been around for 100 years longer, is she a little more jaded than she was back in that movie? But so there was some good gags. The secretary was funny. The sidekick guys were funny. But I'm watching it going, okay, this is good. You're on the right track. However, in the hands of Marvel, you would have got belly laughs out of some of those moments and been like, oh, this is such a great movie, because Guardians of the Galaxy did that. They take just regular conversations and escalate them to punctuate emotion, and you go from like, oh, I'm so sad, to that's a belly laugh. And this movie did a good job, but it could have done a great job. I was like, you could have punched up a few jokes here and there and made this movie like killer.
Outside of Age of Ultron, Marvel really hits the small details that matter. So even the wraparound in this, she gets the picture and Bruce Wayne's letter says, I hope someday you'll tell me your story. And then she tells the story and you're thinking, oh, she's making a video or typing this in an email to him. And at the end, she just says, thanks for the picture in an email, and sends it off. I'm like, wait, what was she doing during this whole movie?
Who'd you just tell that to?
I think she didn't tell anybody. I think she was just seeing that made her remember. And she was.
But that's such a simple detail that would have made, okay, the movie was her telling this story. I don't know. Little things like that irk me when you've got a $150 million budget and you're blowing small details. It just bothers me. I don't know.
Maybe I think also you guys came in with higher expectations than I did. Like, I expect them to miss all that stuff. So I was like, fine. Just give me something I can enjoy. I think that's the difference between us.
I guess I'm a little more positive, while I'm agreeing with a lot of your nitpicks. Is it's such a course correction for this DC universe that I'm like, so now Joss Whedon has been punching up the Justice League movie. First, he was brought in as a ghost writer. Then when Zack Snyder had to step aside, he's doing the final shoots. So it sounds to me like after Batman v Superman came out, they immediately shot up a flare and said, we got to fix Justice League or we're sunk. So I am rooting. I'm more a Marvel fan by 1,000. It's like I love Marvel and Batman. So now I want all these superhero movies to be good. And the X-Men movies have been pissing me off. So, Batman v Superman was better than the last X-Men movie to playing field. It's not all Marvel for me, but I'm like, okay, so if they can take that humor, like the Marvel movies do, like, and make camaraderie and banter, and then have these, great action set pieces. The DC universe has just been so dark and dour that I'm like, if this is an indication of we're going to fix this, you got James Wan going to do Aquaman. Jason Momoa seems like he's going to be very Hemsworth-like.
If you don't want it to be dour, maybe you don't bring in James Wan to be your director.
Did you see the picture of Amber Heard as Mira?
No.
It looks way more colorful than anything that's come before it.
I just hope Justice League is as good as Suicide Squad.
All right, we're going about 10 minutes over. I want to wrap this up real quick, but I do want to say that the thing everyone hates about the DC universe, the dourness, how down it is actually what I liked, because it's so different than the Marvel series, and I like that. And I know I'm completely on the wrong side of everyone else on this, but that's why I liked it. I don't think they have done very well with most of these movies, but I liked that they were trying to do something different. And I'm concerned that with Justice League, they're trying to make it more jokey, and I don't have a good feeling about it, because did you guys see that trailer before the movie? Oh my God.
They showed a Justice League trailer before Wonder Woman for you?
Yeah. You didn't see that?
I've seen all the Justice League trailers, so I know what you're talking about. They just didn't show it.
That's why I brought up Suicide Squad.
That trailer looked bad.
Cyborg looks like an abortion. Ugh.
Why is that in the movie? I could do better special effects in freaking Windows Movie Maker tonight.
Well, they want to be on so bad it's good, so they're doing whatever they need to do.
They're working on it. All right. Hunter, where would you put this? Is this a pass? Is this a cable viewing, a rental, or see it in the theaters?
Go to the movie theater. It's summer's right around the corner. Just go get a bucket of popcorn and just have fun.
Jack.
I would say see it. I would say see it in IMAX 3D. I would say turn off your skeptical side, sit back and enjoy the movie and have fun. And like I said, I think we're a little more critical. I think a lot of people will go in and freaking love this movie. But if you hear us first and you go in, you're going to be like, okay, that was fun, but I see what they meant. But definitely worth seeing in the theater.
How many pinuses would you give it?
2 hands.
Is that a pinus up or a pinus half
A
mast?
4-hour pinus up.
For you, this is a go to the emergency room pinus.
Call your doctor.
I would give this a rental. I don't know that I would have seen it in the
Wow.
theater again, but I absolutely love Gal Gadot. I think Patty Jenkins is a hell of a director. That middle stuff was amazing, but I don't know. It probably doesn't help that the person I'm seeing it with is just sitting there like, Jesus Christ. You know,
Just ruining it. She ruined it.
For the
I don't even know
record,
why
I
I
like
knew.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 better.
oh yes, for sure.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, people. So next week we are going to do The Mummy, right, guys?
Unfortunately.
I mean, we didn't talk about it beforehand, but we have to, right? I mean, it's
No,
in
yeah,
our
I knew
wheelhouse.
this. I knew it was happening, and I've already planned to drink myself silly while I watch it.
Is that movie that It Only Comes at Night or something coming out?
That's
It
in
comes out at
July.
the same time. So
Wait,
I
it
think,
comes out this weekend?
yeah. So I think what we do is we do the Mummy for the next one, and it comes at night for the episode
Okay.
after that, episode 5,
Comes at Night looks really good.
with your pinus.
On that, if you want to see all of our pinuses, go to finalguys.com. All of our information there. All of our information is there. Apparently, I've been hitting the whiskey too hard. Gentlemen, send us out.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
You're a wonder,
Be nice
Wonder
to your
Woman.
pinus.
Good night.